Could do an entire hour on Liam Richardson's spell at Rotherham United. Yeah, the numbers don't match up the eye test. They're absolutely not. We're efficient. I think is where we are at the minute. That's the word to use, isn't it? We're very, very efficient. He's a weird one, Cam Dawson, because he is not Mr. Popular with Rotherham fans. This is difficult because we made an agreement on our podcast to stop telling people how good Dan Gore is in the hope that he stays a little bit longer. The local journo called it the best debut he's ever seen for Rotherham United. We then waited 4 weeks until we're 9 points adrift. Publicly quoted, I think 3 different managers have all turned us down. And then Liam Richardson gets appointed.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Opposition Report. We're back after, I believe it was 12. Well, the day I'm recording this on Tuesday, so it's been about 12 days since Reading played last. And today I'm joined with Matt from the New York Talk podcast. Matt, how are we doing today?
Very, very good, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm looking forward to Saturday, to be honest. Looking forward to getting back to it. Someone did mention this to me in the office yesterday, but I can't remember the exact reason. Why is Rotherham's ground called the New York Stadium?
So the legend goes, there was a steel factory on the site. It's still there. If you've been to New York Stadium, you'll see the dilapidated building next to it. That was called Guest and Crimes, and that used to make the fire hydrants that you now see, the yellow famous New York City fire hydrants, were made in Rotherham. Whether that's true or not, there's up for debate, but that's the story, and it's a great story, so that's what we're sticking with.
I mean, it's a good story. I thought you were going to turn around and say it was like some touristy board sponsorship thing, and they've picked Rotherham Stadium for that, which who knows? Who knows? Anyway, let's talk about your season start. You currently sit 11th. You played 16, won 6, drawn 4, lost 6. But you're unbeaten in the last 7 in the league. It's been going well, hasn't it?
Yeah, really well. We had a really rough start, second bottom at the end of September when we lost to Mansfield. And the question marks obviously start coming in. Matt, I'm sure as a young manager, so fans are kind of going, right, is this young manager got what it takes? He brought in lots and lots of youth. I think the most experienced player we brought in the summer was Thomas Holmes. He's 26, so he's not like he's vastly experienced. He's still, a kind of prime age footballer. So that gives you an idea of how youthful our signings were in the summer. So the question is has he took the right path in terms of that? But we drew at Bradford on telly when we were really unlucky not to win. We should have won that game, but for a couple of defensive mistakes. And we haven't looked back since. The only defeat since then was a defeat in the FA Cup in extra time to Swindon when we had basically no senior players on the pitch. He's really found his way in terms of getting these players to believe in a project, to getting them playing a bit more, being solid, but also allowing some of the flair players to express themselves as well. It's really impressive how quickly he's managed to turn it around, to be honest with you, and he deserves all the credit in the world for getting us to within 4 points of the playoffs at this stage of the season.
I was going to say that kind of brings me on nicely to my next question about Matt Hamshaw. Obviously, he was involved in your youth setup, I want to say, and then obviously went to interim manager, then took on the full job. How are the fans been responding to him? I'm assuming at the moment he's the best manager in the world, but
Yeah.
What's the fan mood kind of been like around Matt?
I think up until that kind of Bradford game, there was some fans really unhappy because they just thought it was a cheap option, which we have gone for in the past. I think he said the right things. You know, he had Stevens last year, and he comes in with all that bluster and says that we're going to do this, that, and the other. Matt Hamshaw came in and just calmed it down, just really calmed it down and said, right, this is a project. We've overspent in the last couple of years. This is us settling back down. You're buying young players to try and settle high in the future. And that's kind of what I wanted to see. We've been boom and bust for God knows how long in terms of league position. We just settle it down, just get us on a path we can feel is the right path we're on. And I feel like he's communicated it really, really well. You've got to back it up, haven't you? You can't communicate and then lose every single week. So he's obviously had to back it up to an extent, and he certainly has done so far. I think he'll struggle to find the Rotherham fan unhappy at the minute because of the run we're on. Having said that, if we lose to you guys, lose to Wickham, and then lose to Blackpool the game after, then we all know how fickle some fans can be. But I think he's got the credit in the bank for at least the season for me.
On this recent run of form, obviously you haven't conceded in the last 2 games, and there was an impressive 3-0 win against Lincoln, which to me stands out for all the right reasons. What went right that day?
We were just relentless. We were just on them all the time. It was a real outlook. Lincoln were off it. You know, they absolutely were. But there's just this confidence of taking shots. You look, they scored 2 goals from outside the area, which you could argue is lucky, but you've got to take those chances. We've now got that confidence to shoot from 25 yards, left back shooting from 25 yards, and it goes in, and then it lifts the entire stadium, lifts all the players on there. Again, look at the stats. The stats will tell you that Lincoln maybe had a better XG, but ask a Lincoln fan, and they'll tell you that Rotherham United were very, very worthy of a 3-0 victory that day. And like I said, Lincoln are top of the league now. That's looking like a fantastic result, even at the time. So it's just when we've got a fit enough squad, we are aggressive. We like to move the ball forward. We're not direct necessarily in terms of a big man, but well, we might have to be. But we like to move it quick back to front as quick as possible through the midfield where we can. And that's what we did against Lincoln. We just midfield's become so solid, just teams are finding it so difficult to play through us, which then obviously gives us a bit of a confidence to build off that kind of a springboard.
You mentioned a buzzword there, which brings me on to this point, XG. I did look a little bit at the expected table. It's something I've started to have a look a little bit into now, around now we're a few more games into the
Mm.
season. And at the moment, you guys are currently sat last for expected
Mm.
points and expected goals, and there's, I guess you could say, is a slight overperformance. Is it a cause for concern for you guys, or is it numbers not necessarily matching up with the eye test?
Yeah, the numbers aren't matching up the eye test. They're absolutely not. Lincoln game's a really, really good example. Their XG was more than ours by half a goal or something like that, and it was a 3-0 game. Rotherham were 3 goals better than Lincoln City. There's just no question about it. You look at Leighton Orient. We beat Leighton Orient 1-0, but and again, I think their XG was quite a bit better than ours. But they weren't in the game at all. The eye test doesn't match to me. We've had times in the past where we've had really, really good XG and we've kind of over underperformed it at the minute. I think a lot of those stats maybe come from the first 10, 5 or 6 games where we were. I imagine the XG against us would have been really, really high, and we were conceding goals, and we weren't creating anything. So I think maybe in a handful of games' time, we'll maybe see it even out a little bit. But yeah, we're efficient. I think is where we are at the minute. That's the word to use. I mean, we're very, very efficient in what we do. We're not creating 10 chances a game, 10, 15 chances a game. We might create only five or less than that, but we are taking our chances at the minute, or have been up until Saturday. So we are well, obviously outperforming it because we are where we are in the table. But I don't think that's a true reflection on the actual performances.
I mean, the prime example, I heard I won't name them, but a very popular League One media outlet talking up Port Vale at the weekend and saying how they're the best thing since sliced bread, and how they are very sure that they were going to beat Wickham at the time. And Port Vale are top of the XG table at the moment, but yet they sit 23rd in the league and they drew 0-0. So their numbers aren't always to be believed. But
Yeah.
I just want to mention one more player when it comes to numbers because it caught my eye, especially since we've had a goalkeeper in Joel Pereira recently who's been overperforming the numbers. I say overperforming, more posting very good, impressive numbers. Cameron Dawson, very
Mm.
impressive season, very high XG prevented. Again, do the numbers match the eye test, and what's he been like this season?
He's a weird one, Cam Dawson, because he is not Mr. Popular with Rotherham fans. That is weird. I don't think is look. Cam Dawson's an okay keeper. He's not a championship keeper. He's a League One keeper, and I think we have the downside of having Victor Janssen previously. So we're using this great keeper to compare Cam Dawson. He's just not that guy. Um, he hasn't made any howlers. What I would say about Cam Dawson is he's just solid. He's not great at commanding his area. His kicking's not great, but he doesn't really make any mistakes. So, and I think our expectations are a bit too high. But for League One, he's as solid as you get. You can't complain. His commanding of the area has improved really, really significantly the last 3 or 4 games. There's been a change in that, which is something that I think has pleased a lot of Rotherham fans. I'm more than happy with him. You know, he's not gonna. He doesn't tear up any trees. He doesn't pull off a stunning save, but he's very, very solid. He's commanding. Defenders seem to trust him. I don't think he's going to win Player of the Year, but I'm more than happy to have him between the sticks, definitely.
A player that I've seen a lot of your fans raving on about is a man called Dan Gore. I believe he's had. How's he been this season?
Well, this is difficult because we made an agreement on our podcast to stop telling people how good Dan Gore is in the hope that he stays a little bit longer. Uh, he's just a ridiculous footballer. Do you know when you watch, there's a guy you watch and it might not be a player for your team, but you just watch him and think, oh, it's good to watch. He's
Yeah,
just
all the time.
aesthetically good to watch, but he's an absolute rat and all. He just gets stuck in, he winds up opposition. He's just the full package. I think he's only 20. His first run of games. He played one game for Port Vale the season before last. He just runs the show. You know, he's not necessarily got the passing range that everybody else has, but he'll carry the ball. He'll always show for the ball. Like he'll get stuck in. He's a red card waiting to happen. I'm not going to lie. It's definitely going to happen at some point this season. But he's got the credit in the bank. But whenever that does come, he's got the credit in the bank to kind of for us to accept it. The worry is that he'll leave in January because either somebody will buy him from the Championship or Man U will want to loan him out to the Championship. He's too good for this level. He's just a wonderful footballer.
I was going to ask, is he? I wasn't too sure on the transfer business. Is he on loan with you guys from United, or did he join you guys from United?
He's on loan, just on loan at the minute. He's out of contract at Man U in the summer. Obviously they command a fee anyway because he's so young. But we're starting to think maybe we can stretch something to afford him. Maybe, but that maybe just getting us getting a little bit excited. But if his wheel has ended January, then we'll have done really really well because I do think he is good enough to play the Championship. Probably right now, to be honest.
Always one of those as a League One or even Championship fan. There's always two key rules: is never fall in love with a lone player, and when you've got a young prospect, just get ready because someone's going to come along and go, "Oh, you can't have Michael Olise anymore in Reading's case. We're going to sign him for 7 million." It's always good, isn't it? But yeah. Anyway, on to a little connection between Reading and Rotherham, which was formed recently. Liam Richardson, recently appointed Reading manager, obviously didn't have the best of time of it at Rotherham. I believe he left post before you guys got relegated. Am I correct in saying that it wasn't all of his fault at that present time? Talk to me a little bit about his reign in charge of the Millers.
We could do an entire hour on Liam Richardson's spell at Rotherham United. Well, it was a very difficult time for him because we sacked Matt Taylor in November's time, something like that, and we were 4 points adrift to safety, which is bad, but it's not. You can make 4 points back within 2 games, obviously. We then waited 4 weeks until we're 9 points adrift, publicly courted, I think, three different managers who all turned us down, and then Liam Richardson gets appointed. So publicly, we all know he's not first choice anyway, which doesn't help. That puts him on back foot anyway with everybody. If half the stories I hear are true in terms of the way the chairman treated him, then he was on a hiding to nothing anyway. We went into January, like I said, 9 points away from safety, but we didn't sign a single player until deadline day when he brought three loanees in. One was Motor, and the other two were basically kids. So he wasn't even backed in the January transfer window. He tried to make us solid. That team was terrible. It was full of players who weren't good enough for the Championship. And not only were they not good enough for the Championship, they didn't want to play for Rotherham United. It was very clear from probably November onwards those players weren't really interested. Matt Taylor brought in loads of old players on decent money, so they were just kind of picking up away till the end of the season. Um, if my opinion at the time was, well, he's made us a bit better, and based on what he did at Wigan, I think he's fully earned a chance at League One. Give him a summer in League One. Look at the players he brought in at Wigan. Give him the chance to rebuild us in the summer because he's a project guy, and I think that's what I wanted after a terrible, terrible season. The chairman decided he wanted to bring his mate back. Steve Evans and Tony Stewart are famously very, very good friends. And he decided to bring him back at the end of the season. It was a bad decision. It put us back another couple of years by bringing Steve Evans back. Not every Rotherham will think this, but I do think this is the majority opinion. But it's obviously not everybody. But Liam Richardson should have been the manager at the start of last season. Whether it worked out or not was obviously a different question. But he should have been the manager at the start of last season.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of an interview recently with Matt Taylor who was talking about maybe not quite the funding being there from the chairman. Is there sort of a feeling amongst the fan base that maybe the funding and things behind the scenes at board level isn't kind of in the right place?
Yeah, 100% for me. Again, we could do another hour on Tony Stewart and where the club is. Tony Stewart's a classic northern businessman. He fancies himself a lot, loves his Lamborghinis, but when it comes to putting money into something, he'll do it as cheap as possible. It'll do kind of motto when it comes to Rotherham United. And we've known for years when we had Paul Warne completely masked the problems at the training ground because of how good he is as a man motivator, and everything else that comes along with it. When Matt Taylor and Liam Richardson come in, basically every single week they were telling the public about the training ground. The pitches aren't up to standards. We were getting loads of injuries. Matt Taylor blamed the training ground for being soft compared to the home pitches. He begged and begged for something to be done. It only changed when Steve Evans comes in. When Steve Evans comes in, like the chairman's best mate, he then puts £250,000 into training ground in terms of doing the pitches. I mean, to give you an example of this, when we have a structure at the training ground, which is like three porter cabins put together, that came from Paul Warne's transfer budget back in 2018. Paul Warne had to not, take whatever it was, let's say £100,000 or whatever,
Yeah.
from his own transfer budget to build the structure at the training ground. I mean, that's just just wild to me. The minimum you should have as a football club is a reasonable stadium. Don't have to be brilliant, but a reasonable stadium and a training ground that is acceptable that doesn't get taken out your transfer budget. And like I said, what I mentioned about Liam Richardson not really being fancied by the chairman, what chance did he have? He just had zero chance at all.
It's amazing when you think about it because you guys have managed to sort of bounce between sort of bottom half Championship and League One, and especially with all this going on, the facility issues, like
Yeah.
fair play to Paul Warren for keeping that up, and like it was no surprise that kind of the relegation was coming, and maybe a season that happened under Liam. Let's
Mm.
talk about the game on Saturday. First of all, there's been quite a few injury problems I understand behind the scenes. Could you give
Yeah.
us a quick rundown of the injury problems, or is it a lot easier if you tell me who is fit to play?
Basically, we could tell you who's available.
Yeah.
We finished Luton with zero fit centre halves. Oh, that's not true. We got one fit centre half, and his 19-year-old kid who's playing his fourth ever league game, who's been very good. Don't get me wrong, he's been excellent, but still, that's not ideal. And we finished the game with zero fit strikers on the pitch as well. So all the midfielders are fine. With midfield, we're great, good to go. They're basically all available in midfield. But yeah, Thomas Holmes probably will be back for Saturday, although he might not start. It's going to be kind of touch and go. But I expect him to be in the squad. Sam Nombe is almost certainly out injured. As obviously a striking option. He's done his quad by the sounds of it. We as the public don't know the severity of it yet, but quad injury is rarely good. um, John Hugel is the question mark. John Hugel came off with a twisted ankle on Luton last week. Now, if that's a serious injury, as in more than 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to have to dip into the free agent market because we don't have another striker. If it's just a week, I think we can make do amend with we can play something fancy like a false nine or something like that, which is not ideal, especially for something like a club like us. But if you've got to make do for a week, you've got to make do for a week. Yeah, we're in serious trouble. It's a good job our midfielders playing as good as it is because there's nobody else on the pitch to any other specialist positions available.
Reading fans will be very happy to hear the return of Thomas Holmes. Obviously, Academy product with us.
Mm,
He was, I think, in the end, he went down as a popular figure. I mean,
mm.
any player who comes to your academy will be, but it was always mixed. I, from my memory, he's played one game for you guys, right, where he picked up an injury. But did he do all right in that one game, or am I making that up completely?
No, it was stunning. The local journal called it the best debut he's ever seen for Rotherham United. We've like I mentioned, the kids we've signed in. We were playing with a 20-year-old who's from Scotland and a 19-year-old who's from Sheffield United, and they were playing fine, but they just lacked that edge, that lacked some man to shout at them. And Thomas Holmes just came in, did that, won every single header. You could see him, shouting at the other players and telling them what to do. We won that game against Exeter at 1-0, first clean sheet of the season, no coincidence. And we're all getting really excited that he played 90 minutes. This is it. We've got our man that we wanted to be this leader. And then on Monday morning, it turns out he's done his meniscus or something like that, and that was out for 8 weeks. So disaster. Other players have stepped up, which is good. But I think having Thomas Holmes back will be a hell of a thing for us, whether it's this week or next week. We're desperate for him to come back.
What formation are you expecting Matt Hamshaw to play this weekend?
Ideally, a 3-5-2, but the two is the problem at the minute. We'll probably have to be a 3-4-3-ish. Four proper midfielders with wing backs and then a striker, maybe Jordan Hugel if he's fit. If not, it'll have to be a false nine with somebody like a Josh Benson or somebody like that. We just don't know at this point. It's we against Luton at the second half. It was just stay in the game. We just didn't have the players to do anything on there. So I would expect something 3-5-2-y, something that fits into that kind of ballpark. But we just don't know at this stage. We just don't know what it's going to be at this point.
And if you had to pick one player who really needs to watch out for, I mean, personally, even if he's just in the squad, I feel like a Tom Holmes goal, as rare as they are, seems nailed on. But is there any other players that we need to watch out for on Saturday?
Yeah, I'll give Johnny Martha a shout. He's at the minute on international duty with Curacao, so he might not start. Although bearing in mind the injury crest, he might have to. But he's this little. He's from the Netherlands, but playing for Curacao, and he's tiny. He looks about 12. He's got a 12-year-old's body, but he's just a classic tricky winger. He doesn't know what he's going to do next, which is brilliant because that means the defenders ain't got a clue either. And it's either going to be absolutely brilliant or just terrible. But he's just got the X factor. And I think with our lack of striking options, he's probably going to have to play the entire game. He scored a really good goal against Lincoln, a second goal against Lincoln City from the corner, which was just a great goal from him. It should, on his weaker foot, rifle it into top corner. So he's another one that might not be here in the January, so he's got to kind of enjoy him while he's here. But if he is available, which I think he should be, he's going to be he should be our key player to watch out for on Saturday.
And finally, can I get a score prediction for the game? I know it's quite early in the week and you don't know the injuries, but what's the score prediction?
We're very, very difficult to play against at the minute. Even if we've got no strikers, we'll just make the life difficult. That's not what we want to do, but that's what we're probably going to have to do. And we're very, very good at it at the minute. We don't concede many, but I don't think we'll keep 3 clean sheets in a row. That's probably quite unrealistic. So I'm going to go 1-1. So I don't know who will score. Somebody will score, probably. Hopefully, maybe an own goal. We'll take an own goal. But I'll go 1-1. It won't be pretty. If you go into the game on Saturday thinking this is going to be a good game, you're wrong. I'm sorry. It's just going to be a terrible, terrible game. And we'll hope to get out of there with the point. I think any Rotherham, bearing on injuries, we'd all take a point at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, from our point of view, I'm sure we'll be looking at it as a home game against Rotherham with injury problems and looking maybe to push for the 3 points. But to be honest, given the run that you're on, a point may not be the worst result.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining me today, Matt. Where can Reading fans check out your stuff if you do? I think maybe Reading related in the lead up to the game or League One in general.
Yeah, so we're New York Talk, so we are on YouTube. We do a preview show Thursday, and we'll do an instant reaction after the game Saturday for a quick 10 minutes, and then a full episode on the Sunday. So if you want to find out some Rotherham nonsense, New York Talk, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get.
Perfect. Thank you very much for joining me today, Matt. And come on, you ours.